ready to start? So I kind of was reading different articles about, I kind of wanted to go into the effectiveness of adaptive PE, but really the only articles that are available right now are discussing what are the roles and responsibilities of the adaptive PE teacher. And it's kind of all over the place. So first, the adapted physical educator was brought in as an actual position after the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. One problem that a lot of the teachers face in this position is that there's a lot of different levels. So you can be at one school full-time, you can be hired by the school district and be an itinerant teacher or float around from school to school. You can work half days, you can do a lot of different things. They can be involved with instruction directly and kind of give the classes themselves, or they can only be used as a support staff. So they have infrequent, non-regular instruction. You can work alongside the general physical educator, so the regular PE teacher. You can work with them. You know, if they have a class of 50 kids and 3 of those kids are disabled, you can work with them. Or you can never see the kids and only advise the general physical educator. So obviously, if you're hired as an adaptive physical educator, you need to be educated on your specific position, what's required of you, where you're going to be, when you're going to be there, and really have those boundaries already set with your administrator the first day when you walk in. So they have a lot of other roles. Sometimes they, like I said, they do the direct instruction. One article talked a lot about how adaptive PE and the different therapies, so occupational therapy, speech pathology, physical therapy, recreational therapy, because the adapted physical educator is the first person to see the student's cognitive disabilities, they are the ones to assess whether they will need further therapies and to create the individualized education plan. One boundary, as you can see the second one, one boundary that the adaptive physical educators mentioned in a lot of their interviews in these different case studies and research articles was that there are all these meetings. Every student who has an individualized education plan, there's a meeting for them, like once a month or something, with the administrators, with the teachers, with the parents, with the student. And they said a lot of times they're asked to go to these meetings, but if they have anywhere from 50 to 100 students based on your job, you can't go to 3 2-hour-long meetings every day. That's just not possible. And they feel kind of stretched out and spread thin with all the different roles that they have, and that the administrators are kind of asking a lot from them. So like I said, they're overburdened. They have all these things they have to do. One thing that was brought up in one of the articles was that there are these teachers who are, like I said, itinerant teachers. They go from school to school. And since they aren't at one specific school, they don't have a principal over them. So technically, their head administrator would be the superintendent, or if they have, a higher up adapted PE administrator. But a lot of times, they don't really have one person in charge of them. And so if you have 6 principals telling you different things that you need to be doing, it's going to be hard to please all of them and to fulfill all of those roles. They have to deal with diversity. A lot of problems. One thing that they talked about adapted PE in urban school districts is that Black kids are 3 times more likely to be identified as having a physical disability as are white kids, and that's a really, really large barrier in urban school districts or in majority Black school districts. And so the adapted PE teacher, instead of just having a non-disabled class and having to overcome those diversity barriers, everything is kind of magnified when you're dealing with the disabled public. There's funding problems, behavioral management problems, and diversity within their individual disabilities. You can be the disabled teacher, but you can have anywhere from a nonverbal, totally immobile student all the way up to someone who has been diagnosed with Asperger's but can do pretty much everything else that a normal kid can do. And that's all in one class. And you have to identify every single one of those disabilities and teach to every one of those disabilities, regardless of whether they can all play together or not. And that's a big challenge that we face. So looking back, I kind of identified, in the past there's been a lot of ambiguity. And right now, every teacher is kind of responsible for their own style. They kind of are in charge of deciding, all right, what am I going to do? Working out that contract that they have with the school system or with that specific school. Professional development of the field. I know general physical educators are kind of, like Pat said, looked down upon as an extra class. Well, adapted PE teachers are looked down even more upon. And so really developing this professional aspect of the field and doing research and going to conferences and really being able to create the future of the field, especially since it's a young field. It only came into existence probably like 10 or 15 years ago, the term adapted PE teacher. There's a lot of trial and failure because it is such a new field. There isn't a lot of empirical data showing what is the most effective way to address all of these issues. So it's kind of, you have to figure it out for yourself, and the professional and personal investment of, are you committed to this? Really, a lot of teachers get burned out pretty quickly because it is such a high energy field, going from school to school, dealing with these kids, dealing with the teachers, dealing with the parents. It's a lot of work, and so if you don't have a personal investment saying, I care about these kids, I care about the future of this field, then it's going to be hard to put in the time and the energy and the commitment to really bring the adapted physical educator's position into the potential that it has to be and the benefit that that could bring to the disabled students.